when the HOA rolls up with chainsaws and obliterates a veteran's carefully tended memorial garden, just to stage the perfect glossy magazine photo spread, they figure it's nothing more than routine landscaping. They have absolutely no clue who they've just provoked, or the kind of unyielding determination they've awakened. What comes next transforms a peaceful neighborhood entrance into an all-out battleground of sheer willpower, clever legal maneuvers, cold, hard steel, and one man's refusal to be pushed around ever again. It started on a quiet Tuesday morning in Paradise Pines, one of those polished, upscale suburban enclaves where every blade of grass is measured with a ruler and garbage cans dare not linger past 7 a.m. on collection day. Earl Morrison, everyone calls him Tank, a nickname earned during his 22 years as a Navy Seabee welding patches in 30-foot swells and building forward operating bases in places that made GPS useless, stepped onto his front porch with his usual coffee, expecting the familiar sight of the hedge wall he'd nurtured for 3 long years. Instead, he found devastation. The privet, holly, and Carolina cherry laurel, his first real success at growing something living after decades of steel and concrete, had been chainsawed down to 6-inch stumps. The debris sat in a pitiful burned pile, and the memorial roses he'd planted beneath them, one bush for each of the 3 buddies he'd lost in Afghanistan, lay torn out like discarded trash. The air still carried the sharp diesel stink of wood chippers, and 3 landscapers in Paradise Pines uniforms were finishing the job. The crew chief, Miguel, looked genuinely apologetic as he handed over the crumpled work order signed by Genevieve Sterling Cross, the HOA's Architectural Review Committee chair and self-proclaimed guardian of visual harmony. Emergency removal for sightline violation. Community beautification project. No warning. No notice. Just gone. Most people would have called a lawyer, filed complaints, begged for bureaucratic mercy. Tank didn't beg. He built. A divorced Navy vet living on a corner lot he'd gotten cheap because of sightline issues and utility easements. Tank had turned the place into his sanctuary after the divorce took the big house, the nice cars, and half his pension. The hedges weren't just plants. They were proof he could make something grow, something fragile that required patience instead of blueprints. Every Saturday he'd walk the line with pruning shears, coffee in hand, checking new shoots and snipping dead branches like meditation. The HOA princess in her pearl-white Lexus, who wore tennis outfits to the grocery store and could make, how lovely, sound like a threat, had never liked him, his 12-year-old pickup, or his transitional demographic status. But this wasn't random enforcement. This was calculated. Genevieve had bragged about a magazine feature for Southern Living, and the crew had a professional photographer on site the whole time, directing angles and chipper placement. They'd turned his sacred ground into their backdrop without a single permission slip. 3 days later came the certified mail salt in the wound, a notice congratulating him on the architectural compliance achievement, and suggesting he hire Sterling Cross Design Services, Genevieve's company, for $8,500 in replacement landscaping. The letter even warned that unauthorized structures would face immediate removal and fees. Tank's response was methodical, military grade. He documented everything with timestamp photos, requested board minutes, attended meetings he'd previously avoided. He uncovered the rigged game, a $200,000 beautification initiative, a contract awarded to Genevieve's firm by the same board that approved destroying his hedges, even a secret closed session rezoning of his lot as a community gateway enhancement zone, without notice, violating state open meeting laws. When Genevieve escalated by slapping an orange violation on his door over 6 40-foot shipping containers he'd bought for a future project, giving him 72 hours to remove them or face $200 daily fines, Tank didn't panic. He researched county codes, discovered his property's grandfathered agricultural clause from the farmland days, applied for a construction permit classifying the containers as temporary environmental screening structures to protect a designated buffer zone, and scheduled the inspection for the next board meeting. Then came the bombshell from an old-timer neighbor, Dorothy, who'd kept original 1987 plat maps. His lot extended 12 feet farther than anyone realized. The community's prized entrance fountain, the centerpiece of every brochure and photo shoot, sat squarely on his land. No easement. No permission. 5 years of trespassing. The entire development had federal grants tied to maintaining natural buffer zones. Genevieve's chainsaw crew had violated environmental regulations that could jeopardize millions in funding. Tank kept that card close, finished welding his containers into a modular maze of calculated angles, choke points, one-way paths, a pressure plate gate that swung shut behind vehicles, too narrow for anything bigger than a golf cart to escape. From the road it looked like industrial art blocking their scenic vista. Up close, it became a trap. Genevieve's final gambit was a property values impact assessment tour for prospective buyers on December 15th. She led her luxury convoy straight into the visitor parking signs Tank had placed, funneling them into the narrowing maze. One by one, they triggered the mechanism. Gates clanged shut. Paint scraped. Engines whined in reverse with nowhere to go. As the county inspector, sheriff's deputy, fire department crane, and local news crew arrived, alerted by Dorothy, the trap was sprung. Tank unfolded the survey maps on his lawn chair, played the audio of Genevieve trying to hire the landscaper to, accidentally, damage his containers, and calmly explained to the cameras. The fountain was on his property, the Hedges destruction violated federal rules, and conspiracy to commit property destruction was a felony. The extraction took hours. Luxury vehicles were craned out like trophies. Genevieve's hair came undone, her husband's Porsche leaked transmission fluid, and the buyers filmed their own entrapment instead of the intended eyesore evidence. Within days, Genevieve resigned. Her firm dropped the case with an apology. The board paid $15,000 in damages plus legal fees, signed a property rights agreement honoring Tank's exemptions, and agreed to lease the fountain land for $200 monthly, retroactive 5 years. Carlos, the honest landscaper who'd recorded the sabotage attempt, got the restoration contract for all illegally removed gardens. Tank used the settlement to launch Victory Gardens for vets, helping military families build memorial and therapeutic spaces. The container maze became a protected inner courtyard for new roses honoring Rodriguez, Smith, and Williams. Scout troops visited for lessons on service and sacrifice. The story went national, inspiring homeowners everywhere to fight back with documentation and patience. Every morning Tank still sits on his porch with coffee, watching the roses bloom behind rust-colored steel. The sound of irrigation hums like a promise kept. Justice, it turns out, doesn't always come fast or loud. Sometimes it arrives quietly, engineered to last, served with the satisfying clank of a gate that finally closes on the people who thought they could take everything away. Got your own HOA nightmare? Drop it in the comments. Sometimes the little guy doesn't just win, he builds something they'll never be able to tear down. Subscribe for more tales where the underdog turns the tables, one weld at a time.